What up? It's Friday. Friday. April 5th. Quiet day in the markets today. It's I say quiet, but the markets keep grinding higher. It's a quiet day, but Dow was up 40 points. NASDAQ was up 46, almost 0.6%. NASDAQ is closing in on 8,000. I believe that would be an all-time high. It might be at an all-time high right now. I don't think the NASDAQ did it touch 8,000 before? Oh, yeah, it did. It was over 8,000, and then it fell down to about 62, 6,300, and now it's back to 8,000. And I kind of wonder if that's a double top. If you're familiar with charts, so we'll see. It pushes over 8,000. What happens then if it breaks through that previous high, or if it falls back down? I wouldn't be surprised either way. I guess the markets right now. Um, Wouldn't be surprised if it went up to 10,000. I wouldn't be surprised if it dropped down to 5,000, which is a huge swing. But you know, they, neither of them should surprise you either. I mean, they really shouldn't. I don't think anybody with any certainty can say one or the other that it's no way it's dropping down to 5 or no way it's going up to 10. I don't see at this point how you could say that. Um, Neither of them are that far off, really. So if you look at the run the market's had, looking at the chart right now, in 2009, the NASDAQ was under 1,500. 1,500 just 10 years ago. So you telling me that it can't drop down to 5,000, NASDAQ? It could go a lot lower than that. Sure could. Go down to 3,000. You better be ready for it. I don't think I would be all in right now. Now is not the time to go all in. Sorry, but you already missed that boat to go all in, I think. It drops down to 3,000, then you go all in. But right now, I don't know, I definitely have some cash sitting on the sidelines. I wouldn't get too excited even if the market does break through 8,000 and gets to an all new high. I wouldn't get too excited. Um, Anytime the market is at an all-time high, I guess I wouldn't get too excited. This bull market has been going on for 10 years. I believe it might be the longest in history. Um, I mean, that's a good thing, but you've also got to be thinking at the same time that it's going to come to an end one of these days. Not saying it's going to have a violent drop or anything like that, but I don't think you can expect the returns that you've had over the last 10 years. And usually, when we do get a bubble and it finally pops, is when people start thinking right at this point, like, oh, now I got to get it. Now I got to go all in, because the market is breaking through new highs, and that's how you get a bubble going, and that's how you do get a sharp decline. So I think if it does break, the NASDAQ does break through all-time highs here, I think you just got to kind of take it easy and don't get too excited. And if it falls, I don't think you can get too worked up either. And I would say buy. Either way, I think you got to look at the market as a positive, no matter what it does. And the only time you can't really look at it as a positive if you are all in. I don't think at any point you should be all in. I mean, yeah, it's great right now. You're making money, the market's going up, but if you're all in, how can you buy if the market does have a crash or a 20% decline or go into a recession? Then you got to just sit there and watch unless you start selling stocks, which I guess you could if you think it's going to keep falling. But I think you just keep your course here, keep doing what you've been doing the last few years if you're in the market. If not, it's not a. I would put some money in you. I think you always got to be invested somewhat. So I'm not saying get your money out, but or don't put any money in. I just wouldn't. If you just inherited some money or something, I would not throw it all in the markets right now. Maybe 10% of it, But it's good to have some money in there at all times. But okay, so really no big notable gainers today. Company that I follow fairly closely is Snapchat. Was up 5% today. Snapchat is well, it doubled here in the last few months. I remember when it got under 5, I told a couple people, they probably didn't listen to me just because they don't know anything about the markets. But I told a couple people when I got under 5, I said, I'd buy some Snapchat stock right now. I might even said this in an earlier video. I think I did. If you go back to one of my earlier videos with Snap in the description, I'm pretty sure I recommended that stock when it was $4.90, something like that, or $5, and it's just about $12 today. It closed at 11.84. So I've always, I know Snapchat isn't making money right now, and I know they have a lot of competition. But Snapchat's got something in their business. They really do. They've got something there. It might take a few years for it to pay off, but right now I don't have any Snapchat stock right now. I wish I would have bought some. There's just I can't buy everything. There's so many companies that I would invest in that I just can't get around to all of them. Snapchat was one that if it wouldn't have had this run up, if it wouldn't have doubled, then I would have. If it was still hanging around there at $5, I would have bought some by now. But now that it doubled, now I'm sitting there thinking, shit, you know, and that's how my mind works anyway. When I'm thinking about buying a stock and then it doubles over the next couple months, I don't think I've ever been able to pull the trigger because you just feel like you're, I don't know if ripped off is the right term, but you know what I mean. It's like if something was just on sale, say you're buying whatever clothes or whatever shopping, and something was just on sale, 50% off last week. Are you going to buy that when you go in the store? So your friend just tells you, oh, that was half the price last week. I bought one. Are you going to buy that? No, you're just going to keep walking. So it's the same with stocks. And sometimes the price keeps going up, and sometimes you look back and say, geez, even twice the price, I still should have bought some. Yeah, that happens. But I hope if Snapchat falls down, sometimes you get a second chance, sometimes you don't. And sometimes there is a reason why maybe Snapchat will fall back down to 5 because of some reason. And then I'll be like, well, maybe I don't want to buy Snapchat, because of this. So we'll see what happens. I think they have something there. I definitely, I don't know. I still would like to have some Snapchat in my portfolio. I do. I think long term, I think that's a company that you want to own. Let's see. Office Depot, ODP, old dirty what? Old dirty paper. How about that? Old dirty paper. That's what I want to call Office Depot. Um, Down another 5.5% today. It was down 25% yesterday. We talked about Office Depot. How that company is a walking zombie. Just a cash burning, money losing machine. Terrible management. Not sure why anyone would have any money in Office Depot. So anyway, if you want to hear my rant on that, look at yesterday's video. If you have any Office Depot shares, I know I don't feel sorry for you. What am I saying? I don't feel sorry for you one bit because you're kind of stupid if you have Office Depot shares. I mean, come on, it's 2019. Have you been living under a rock? That would be the only reason you would own Office Depot shares. Makes no sense. Sam Adams was down 5.5% today. I actually bought some Sam. I just came from the grocery store, bought a 12-pack of Sam Adams. It's actually my favorite beer. Um, this is another one, kind of like Snapchat, except this one's one way more than doubled. I was watching Sam Adams when I think it was around $25, I think. Yep, it got down. Man, that was like the bottom too. It was $25 back in 2009. I was actually living in Maine at the time. Just moved out to Maine, and that's where I became, East Coast. They're a Boston company. It's called the Boston Beer Company, and I became familiar with Sam Adams and started drinking it. It's become my favorite beer, and I've been watching the stock, and it's just look at the chart. Absolutely amazing, just amazing. 2001, $8. 2009, $25. 2014, $220. And then it dipped. It got all the way up to 325. and then it came down to about 130. And then I thought I was going to keep going down. I'm like, oh yes, now I can finally get some Boston Beer Company stock, and then it starts going back up again. And if you look at the chart, it got back up to 325 a second time, and then it came down, and now it went back up, and now it's kind of been down a little bit the last month here, but it closed today at $268. So still pretty high. Um, don't think I would buy any. The stock price, actually, if you look at the market cap of the company, the stock price makes it look like a huge company. But if you look at the market cap, it's only $3 billion company. $3 billion is all you think. Usually for a $268 stock, Facebook stock isn't even $268. So usually think like $100 billion company is that expensive of a stock price. But only a $3 billion company. I looked at that one day and I was kind of surprised. So if you think about it, if it was, wow, holy, I can't believe that. So when I was watching the stock when it was $25, that's 10% of what it is right now. So that means when I first got introduced to Sam Adams Boston Beer Company, it was only a $300 million company. Think of that. $300 million is all. Now it's worth 3 billion, and that's still, 3 billion is not a large, for a publicly traded company. So there might be still a lot of room to run there with Boston Beer Company. That's why sometimes I hope for a market crash, just because you could get in, give you a chance to get in on some of these companies that are they're going to be around for a long time. They've proven themselves, and then if you get a drop in the stock price just because of the market, maybe not anything specifically tied to an individual company, that's when you want to buy some stock in these companies. So, I would say, yeah, if Sam Adams has a nice drop where it gets under, I guess it's really hard to say. I guess it'd be nice if it got under 100. I don't know. It's a long ways to go. But sometimes these things can drop fast, man. If the market, just think if the Dow lost like 5,000 points, which isn't really that crazy. If the Dow lost 5,000 points, it would still be over 20,000. Remember when everybody was watching, cheering for the day that the Dow was going to hit 20,000? Now a 5,000 point drop, and it would still be over 20,000. If the Dow dropped 5,000 points, I guarantee you a stock like this would probably be cut in half. Bet you it would. So keep an eye on Sam Adams, SAM, ticker symbol. Take a drink here. Another company, I don't think I did a video on that day when they were down about 20%, but it's Senior Housing Properties Trust, SNH. This is a company I've been watching for a long time, mostly because of their dividend. For a while, they had, I want to say it was a 13-14% dividend. So I was keeping an eye on it. I never bought any. I'm just always curious what happens to companies like that. When I first got into investing, you would read books about, buying all these companies that pay dividends and everything. So I would look at all these. I would, go to my Google stock screener and find the dividend companies with the highest dividends. And when you're first getting to investing, that makes sense, right? Why wouldn't you just buy the companies with the highest paying dividends, right? Made sense. But after years of watching the markets, you come to find out that I think just about every single company that I've ever seen with a dividend over 10% has had major issues, not long after their dividend has risen that high. And maybe 100% of the time that I've seen that, they've cut their dividend way down every single time. Nokia had at one point, like a 12% dividend. They don't pay a dividend at all now. Transocean, the oil drilling company, had a 14% dividend for a while. They pay no dividend right now. Senior Housing, the reason their stock collapsed the other day, well, the dividend wasn't the main reason, but it was part of it. they had like a 14% dividend, and now they cut it down to 6%, and I'm sure they'll cut that again. Their main tenant, which owns, this is why you have to do your due diligence when you're invested in these companies too, because this senior housing, it looked good on the surface. They have a fat dividend. The stock price, is at a reasonable valuation. Most people would say, let's buy this stock. But if you would have done your due diligence, read the annual reports and all that, you would have found out that one tenant, one of their tenants, accounted for 84% of their revenue. One tenant, having one customer, that basically all your business is through one customer. And if that's a great customer, look, if your 84% is Apple, Google, something like that, look, that's fine. Okay. But if you were to look close into it, that would have been a red flag right there. And then if you look into it, say, okay, who is this customer? They were a publicly traded company, which was trading for about 2 cents on the stock exchange. Yeah, 2 cents. I looked into it. So I mean, they went bankrupt. They filed for bankruptcy the other day. So senior housing, 84% of their revenue is just gone. They had to cut their dividend and everything. So that one fell again today, another 5%, under $10, closed at 9.47 today. That was a stock. I think that was probably over 20 here not too long ago. So yeah, do your research if you're ever buying these stocks. New Age Beverages, one that you got to do a lot of research on. That one's under $5. So it's still pretty high if you look back when it used to be, like 50 cents or even lower. New Age Beverages closed at $4.78 today. We've talked about that quite a few times because it's such a volatile stock. I'm not a big fan of these marijuana stocks. I've never bought any of them. And you can make the argument, and rightfully so, if you would have bought, like say this one, 2015, I mean, the stock was at 33 cents. I mean, come on, it's at, even now, after this drop they've had recently, it's still $4.78. I mean, that's a huge gain. So I realize that, but most people did not get in. I mean, who honestly owned New Age Beverages in 2015 when it was 33 cents? I mean, come on. Probably only insiders of the company, people who maybe knew, you know, about the company, had some inside information, worked for the company maybe. I mean, come on, I never New Age Beverages. Come on. It's the problem is when these stocks become popular, they start going up, so they get their names mentioned in these articles, and then people start talking about them, and then all the marijuana buzz, about it being legalized and everything, and then when it gets up to, after it's double, triple, quadrupled up, 1,000, 2,000%, that's when people start jumping in. That's the worst time to start jumping into a stock. If you possibly can, you look for. It may seem hopeless at the time. I mean, how bad do you think that looked when a stock was at 33 cents in 2015? Sometimes that's when you have to get in. If you want these big gains, that's the only way to do it. You have to take chances on these companies that are trading for under $1. It might seem like they're, and some of them are. Look, some of them do go bankrupt, but there's some like this one who will make you tons of money. And sometimes, if I would have bought back then, like let's say I did get in, I would hope. It's hard to say until you've actually been through the process, but I would hope that I would have taken a lot of profits by now. To buy that low and to still be holding on, I mean, you're just asking for trouble. I've seen so many companies where they they start low and then they just go sky high and they end up back right where they started a few years later. Um, that's just such a roller coaster. You have to take some profits with these small companies. It's unless they turn into like a Facebook or a Snapchat or something like that, where you see some real potential. But I mean, let's just admit it. There's limited um, potential here for a company like New Age Beverages. Almost the best case scenario is probably if they get bought out by a large soda company. I really don't think New Age Beverages um, is going to just take over the beverage market and be the next Coca-Cola or anything like that. I think that's pretty safe to say. So, I mean, I would never buy new age beverages at this price. If you own it now, I guess depending on how much money you have into it, if it's a small amount, I guess I'd probably just hold on to it. If it's a large amount, I definitely, um, if it's you have so much money into it where you're looking at it um, multiple times a day because you're nervous about what it's going to do, I would definitely um, de-risk my my holdings in a company like that. Even a larger company like Tilray or Canopy Growth Company. Um, a lot of the hype over the marijuana business has passed. It really has. I'm not saying it's over with, but it could be years before it's really back in the spotlight again. So you could be just holding on to a loser for years, while there's plenty of other companies out there that have much more attention. The Dow closed at 26,425 today. Nasdaq's almost up to 8,000. See if we can get the Nasdaq up to 8,000 next week. It's only a day. Could be a day. Like Monday, it could be over 8,000. It's literally only 62 points from 8,000. You could see that. That's only about that's not even a 1% gain to the Nasdaq to get over 8,000. It's all time high. But I think it's probably about 1% away from the all time high. So we'll see if they can pull that off next week. I'm sure at some point it will hit an all time high. Um, what's interesting to me is what's going to happen after that, if it's going to keep going or if it's going to fall back down. So, all right, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.